Welcome to African Tales Stories channel. Without wasting our time, let's get to the watch. Beneath the restless waves of the Atlantic, where the water shimmered like liquid sapphire, lived Lily, daughter of the powerful sea queen. Her hair floated like strands of golden seaweed, and her tail gleamed with the colors of the sunset. She was breathtakingly beautiful, even among the merfolk. But unlike the others who swam freely and without care, Lily carried a secret, a longing so strong it tightened in her chest like a fisherman's net. She longed for the human world. For years she had watched them from the shadows, men casting their nets, women laughing as they pounded yams on the shore, children chasing the waves with shrieks of joy. But more than anything, Lily was fascinated by love. Humans held each other, whispered sweet words, and shared their joy and sorrow. In the ocean, love was nothing more than duty, cold, distant, and bound by rules. She wanted more. But she knew the law. You must never step onto land, the Sea Queen had warned her. If you do, you will lose your immortality. The sea will never welcome you back. Yet, the longing in Lily's heart refused to die. It pulsed like the tides, growing stronger with each passing moon. And so, on a night when the ocean stirred restlessly beneath the weight of a coming storm, Lily made a choice that would change her fate forever. Deep in the heart of the sea, past coral forests and caverns of glowing jellyfish, lay a place few dared to go, the shrine of Nina, the river goddess. Her temple was carved into the side of an undersea cliff, shimmering with the glow of enchanted pearls. Lily's heart pounded as she swam inside. Nina was known for granting favors, but her gifts always came with a price. At the center of the shrine, sitting on a throne of woven river reeds, was Nina herself. She was not like the merfolk. Her body shimmered with liquid gold, her eyes deep and knowing, her presence both beautiful and terrifying. She smiled when she saw Lily, but there was something unsettling about it. "Ah, the daughter of the sea," Nina mused, dipping her fingers into a golden bowl of water. Ripples spread across its surface, revealing images of humans dancing around a fire. "You wish to walk among them." Lily hesitated but nodded. "I want to feel what they feel. I want to love as they love." Nina studied her for a long moment. Then she laughed, a sound like rushing water over smooth stones. "Be careful what you wish for, child," she murmured. "Love is the sweetest thing in the world, but it is also the most dangerous." She stretched out her hand, and in her palm appeared a single shimmering tear, a pearl glowing with the light of the moon. "Bring me the ocean's heart," Nina said. "It lies in the deepest part of your mother's kingdom, guarded by creatures who do not sleep. In exchange, I will give you legs to walk the earth." But listen closely, Lily. Her golden eyes darkened like a river before a storm. "If a human truly loves you, you will remain human forever. But if not, when the last tear falls from your eye, the sea will reclaim you forever." A chill ran down Lily's spine, but her heart was already set. The ocean's heart lay hidden deep within the Sea Queen's palace, locked away in a cavern of glowing sea anemones. It was a sacred treasure, said to hold the very soul of the ocean itself. Lily knew she was committing an unforgivable sin, but she pushed forward. With the skill of a shadow, she slipped past guardians made of living coral, past watchful eels that slithered through the darkness, until at last she found it. The ocean's heart sat on a pedestal of black pearl, pulsing with a heartbeat of its own. Lily took a deep breath. Her hands trembled as she reached for it. The moment her fingers brushed the stone, the ocean seemed to scream. A shock wave of energy exploded through the water, sending a blast of bubbles in every direction. The guards awoke. The sea churned violently. The palace trembled as if it knew it had been betrayed. Lily clutched the heart to her chest and swam as fast as she could. She did not stop, not even when she heard the roar of an ancient sea beast awakening in the depths. Not even when she felt the pull of something dark and powerful rising behind her. She swam until she reached the shrine. Nina was waiting. Without hesitation, Lily thrust the ocean's heart into the goddess's hands. Nina smiled. "You have sealed your fate, child." She raised her hands, and golden light surrounded Lily. Pain shot through her body as her tail began to split apart. Scales fell like autumn leaves, webbed fins tore and reformed into something new. Lily gasped as her gills closed, as her lungs began to burn. She could no longer breathe underwater. She was dying. Her vision darkened as the sea pulled away from her, as the world of water she had always known rejected her. Then, the waves swallowed her whole. Lily's body washed ashore, tangled in seaweed, her new legs motionless in the sand. The sky above was strange and endless, filled with golden light and drifting clouds. For the first time, she felt the warmth of the sun on her skin. For the first time, she felt the weight of her body on solid ground. She tried to move, but pain surged through her limbs. Her new legs were weak, unfamiliar, her vision blurred. Then, a shadow fell over her. A man, tall, with dark eyes full of sadness, his face lined with the pain of lost dreams. He knelt beside her, his rough hands gentle as he brushed wet hair from her face. His voice was soft, deep, kind. "Are you alive?" Lily tried to speak, but her throat was dry, her voice stolen by the sea. He lifted her carefully, cradling her like something fragile. She didn't know his name. She didn't know where she was. All she knew was that the journey had begun, and somewhere deep beneath the waves, the Sea Queen had awakened. And she was furious. The moon hung low over the fishing village, casting silver ripples across the restless ocean. A warm breeze carried the scent of salt and wood smoke, but Lily could feel something else in the air. Something colder. Something watching. She sat outside Kai's small hut, staring at the waves in the distance. The ocean was calling her. It was in the way the waves pulled back slower than before, in the way the tide whispered her name through the wind. But Lily refused to answer. She did not belong there anymore. She belonged here with Kai. Still, her body told a different story. Her skin was changing. It felt tight, dry, fragile, like cracked earth under the sun. No matter how much water she drank, her thirst only grew worse. Her legs ached as if they weren't hers at all, as if they still remembered the ocean. And then there was the tear. It had started as nothing, a small, glassy drop forming in the corner of her eye. But it hadn't fallen yet. It was waiting for the moment of truth. Kai found her sitting there, lost in thought. His kind eyes searched hers. "Are you all right?" he asked. She wanted to say yes. She wanted to tell him that she had never felt safer, that the warmth of his presence was enough to chase away the cold that crept through her bones. But before she could speak, shouts echoed from the village square. Kai turned sharply, his body tense. "Stay here," he said, his voice firm. Then he grabbed his fishing knife and stepped toward the noise. But Lily wasn't going to stay. She had to know. She followed him quietly, her bare feet gliding across the dirt path, her heart pounding like the distant drums of a storm. When they reached the square, a group of villagers stood huddled, whispering in fear. At the center of them stood Chief Omar. He was tall and broad, his dark robes embroidered with gold, his thick fingers curled around the jeweled handle of a dagger at his belt. His eyes, sharp, greedy, dangerous, scanned the villagers like a lion surveying a herd of gazelles. And then they landed on Lily. A slow, satisfied smile spread across his lips. "There she is," he murmured. The hairs on Lily's arms stood up. Omar stepped forward, and the villagers scattered from his path like dry leaves in the wind. "You must be the mysterious woman who appeared from the sea," he said, his voice thick like honey, but honey that dripped with something sickly, something dangerous. Lily clenched her fists. "She is under my care," Kai said, stepping between them. Omar barely glanced at him. "Till?" The chief chuckled. "A fisherman's hut is no place for a woman like her. You struggle to feed yourself, Kai. How will you provide for such beauty?" Kai's jaw tightened, but before he could speak, Omar turned his gaze back to Lily. "Come with me," he said. "I can give you fine clothes, gold, a life fit for a queen. Whatever you desire, I will make it yours." A murmur ran through the villagers. This was not a request, it was a demand. Lily stared at him, her heart hammering against her ribs. She knew what kind of man he was. He wasn't offering love, he was offering ownership. "No," she said firmly. Omar's smile faltered. Then his eyes darkened. "Perhaps you misunderstand," he said slowly, stepping closer. "This is not a choice." Kai moved in front of Lily, his knife flashing in the moonlight. She said no. The chief's expression hardened. The air grew thick with tension, like the moment before lightning strikes. Then Omar smiled again, too calm, too easy. "Very well," he said, stepping back. "But remember this, girl, I always get what I want." He turned, his robes billowing behind him as he walked away. But the promise in his voice lingered in the air like a curse. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. She sat by the window staring at the sky. The stars blinked like distant watchers, but they held no answers for her. Then, a sound, a whisper, a ripple, a voice carried by the wind. "Lily," she gasped. It was not Kai's voice. It was not human at all. Slowly, she turned toward the sea, and there, standing just at the water's edge, was a figure. A towering shadow, barely visible except for its glowing blue eyes. Lily's breath caught in her throat. She knew those eyes. Zane, the tide hunter. Her mother had sent him. A cold wave of fear crashed over her. "No," she whispered. "Not yet." But the shadow did not move. It only stood there watching, waiting. Her time was running out. The night was thick with an eerie silence. The air smelled of salt and danger. The waves churned violently, whispering secrets to the wind. The ocean was awake, watching, waiting. Lily sat in the grand chamber of Chief Omar's estate, her heart pounding like the war drums of the deep. Golden lanterns flickered on the walls, casting long shadows that danced like spirits. Outside, the village lay in uneasy sleep, unaware that the sea had begun to stir. Omar stood before her, his eyes gleaming with cruel satisfaction. He was dressed in a robe of red and gold, his fingers heavy with rings of power. He reached out and traced a finger along Lily's cheek, and she shuddered. His touch felt like cold iron, like chains tightening around her soul. "You are mine now," he murmured, a wicked smile curling his lips. "The sea brought you to me, and I will not let it take you back." Lily's throat felt dry. Her skin, once smooth and glowing, was now parched and dull. She could feel the ocean pulling at her, calling her home. But she could not return. Not yet. Not until she knew if Kai's love was real. The tear was still there, shimmering like a pearl on her cheek. The last tear. The final warning. If Kai did not truly love her, she would be lost forever. A storm had begun to gather outside, Wind howled through the cracks of the wooden doors. The sea roared like an angry beast. Then, boom! A tremendous force struck the shore, shaking the very ground. The lanterns flickered wildly. Omar frowned. "What was that?" he snapped, turning toward the door. Then came the scream, high and sharp, piercing through the night. A guard stumbled into the chamber, his face twisted with terror. "Chief, something is coming from the sea." Omar stiffened, his arrogance cracked for the first time. Then the doors burst open with a deafening crash, and a gust of freezing wind swept through the room. And there in the entrance stood a figure not of this world. Zane, the tide hunter. His eyes glowed like molten gold. His body was wrapped in tattered seaweed, his skin glistening with the dampness of the deep. Water dripped from his long, clawed fingers. His voice was the voice of the abyss itself. "She belongs to the ocean." The room seemed to shrink under his presence. Omar stumbled back, his bravado slipping. "She belongs to me now," he spat, gripping Lily's arm. "I will not let you take her." Zane raised his hand, and the ground trembled. A monstrous wave surged into the village, swallowing everything in its path. Lightning split the sky. Thunder roared like 1,000 drums. Omar turned pale. "No, no, I will not be defeated by a spirit." With a cry of rage, he lunged at Zane, sword raised high. But the tidehunter did not move. His lips curled into something like amusement. And then, whoosh, a colossal tentacle of water lashed out and slammed into Omar, sending him crashing through the walls. He screamed as the ocean reached for him, dragging him into the darkness. The sea had judged him. Lily gasped, trembling. The walls of the estate groaned under the weight of the storm. She turned toward the door, her breath catching in her throat. There, soaked and gasping, was Kai. His clothes were drenched, his face cut and bruised. He had fought to get here. He had fought for her. "Lily," he called, reaching out. Her legs wobbled. She could barely stand. Her vision blurred. The tear, her final tear, slid from her eye and fell to the ground. No, no, not yet. The sea howled louder, eager to claim her. Zane stepped forward, his gaze unreadable. It was time. But then Kai ran. He ran past the broken walls, past the waves, past his own fear, straight into the sea. "Take me instead," he roared, his voice cracking with desperation. The ocean froze. The storm paused. Even the sea spirit seemed to hesitate. Kai stood in the churning waters, his arms spread wide, his body shaking. "If she must go, then I will go with her." Lily's breath hitched. Love, not words, not gifts, not promises, sacrifice. A golden glow rippled through the storm. Nina had come. From the heart of the sea she stepped forward, her robes flowing like liquid light. She raised her hands, and suddenly the chaos fell silent. She looked at Kai, then at Lily. "The gods do not need words to see love," she said softly. "Love is action. Love is choice." She turned to Zane. "Her fate is decided." The tidehunter growled but stepped back, bowing to Nina's command. The sea retreated. Lily's body filled with warmth. Her legs strengthened. Her skin glowed once more. The last tear had fallen, but the ocean would not take her. Kai stumbled toward her, falling to his knees. Lily threw her arms around him, sobbing. He held her tight, his own body trembling. The storm was gone. The sea was calm. The ocean had let her go. For love had won. The sun rose over the quiet village. The people whispered of the night the sea had tried to take one of their own, only to be stopped by love itself. Kai and Lily stood hand in hand, watching the waves. Lily was no longer of the ocean, but the sea would always be a part of her. And deep beneath the waves, the Sea Queen watched and whispered, "Love saved her, for now." The story of the last tear of Lily teaches that true love is selfless and proven through actions, not just words. Greed, arrogance, and the desire for control lead to destruction, while humility, sacrifice, and respect for nature and the supernatural bring blessings. Every choice has consequences, but courage and love can reshape destiny. Ultimately, goodness and integrity will always triumph over selfishness and evil. Thank you so much for watching this intense and gripping story on African Tales Stories channel. Your support means everything to us. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comment section, and we'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comment section below. Don't forget to share this story so that more people can watch and learn. Until next time, stay tuned for more captivating African Tales stories. Bye.